My water glass hangs suspended between the table and my lips as Lena's words pierce the formal Sunday dinner atmosphere. Next week, I'll be moving into Kaia's house until I get back on my feet, she announces, smoothing the napkin across her lap with manicured fingernails. The ice cubes in my glass clink against each other as my hand trembles. My parents' dining room suddenly feels airless, the chandelier light too bright against Mom's best china. This dinner has been suspiciously formal from the start, champagne bubbling in crystal flutes, Lena dressed in her interview blazer, seated at the head of the table where Dad usually presides. Isn't that wonderful? Mom beams, her pearl earrings catching the light as she nods enthusiastically. You have all that extra space in your new house. Dad reaches over to pat my shoulder. Your sister really needs this, sweetheart. Just temporary, until she figures things out. The realization slams into me with physical force. This elaborate dinner wasn't a celebration, it was an ambush. The three of them planned this, coordinated it, rehearsed it. Their expectant smiles curdle my stomach as I set down my glass with deliberate care. 3 weeks ago, I stood in my real estate agent's office, pen hovering over the final papers for my craftsman home. 9 years of savings accounts, overtime shifts, and canceled vacations had culminated in that moment. When I signed my name, tears sprang to my eyes. Ellen, my agent, hugged me while I whispered, "I did it." My parents' reaction had been a study in restraint. "It's awfully big for one person," Mom had commented while examining the listing photos. "And so expensive to heat in winter." Meanwhile, they'd written a check to cover Lena's latest business venture, a mobile dog grooming service that lasted exactly 6 weeks before she sold the van at a loss. A week ago, Lena called about storing some boxes in my garage. "Just while they fix some electrical issues in my apartment," she'd said casually. "Nothing major." I reached down for my handbag, hanging from the chair back. The manila envelope inside crinkles reassuringly against my fingers. My hands, which trembled moments earlier, are suddenly steady. "That won't work," I say, placing the envelope on the table next to my barely touched salmon. "I sold my house last week." The silence crashes like a toppled bookcase. Lena's fork clatters against her plate. "You what?" she demands, her voice rising. "You sold your house just to avoid helping me?" My father's face darkens to the shade of the Merlot in his glass. "Kaia, surely you can call them and cancel. The papers can't be finalized yet." "The closing is tomorrow," I say. "Everything is signed." Mom puts down her napkin. "You need to call your agent right now. Explain there's been a family emergency." "There is no emergency," I say. "Lena needs a place to stay. She can live with you, like she has 3 times before." Dad's voice drops to his courtroom tone. "Kaia Elizabeth, this is about supporting family. Lena needs her own space to regroup, and your house is perfect." "Perfect for me," I counter. "The house I saved for 9 years to buy. The house none of you helped me purchase." "We're trying to help you now," Mom says, her voice tightening. "Family isn't about keeping score. It's about being there when someone needs you." Lena pushes away from the table. "I can't believe you'd do this. Sell your house just so I can't stay there. Who does that?" The lifetime of swallowed protests rises in my throat, and for once, I don't force them back down. "For once," I say, my voice quiet but firm, "this isn't about what Lena wants. It's about what I need." Dad's face flushes deeper. "If you go through with this sale, Kaia, there will be consequences for this family." I tuck the envelope back into my purse and stand. The dining room suddenly seems smaller, like a dollhouse I've outgrown. "I'm counting on it," I say, and walk toward the front door. The next day, after I signed the final agreement and got the 30-day period to move out, I went back to my parents' home. Mom's tablet glows in the dim light of her kitchen as I wait for her to return from the grocery store. I only came to borrow a cake pan, but now my finger hovers over an open Pinterest page she left behind. The board is titled, "Lena's Room at Kaia's," and it's dated 3 months ago, well before I even closed on my house. My stomach knots as I scroll through lavender paint swatches, bohemian bedding sets, and furniture arrangements. Each pin includes notes, perfect for east-facing window in Kaia's second bedroom, and storage solutions for Lena's craft supplies. The kitchen suddenly feels too warm. 3 months of planning, 3 months of designing my sister's takeover of my house while smiling to my face about my accomplishment. A text notification pops up from cousin Olivia. "Did Lena get settled in at your place yet? So sweet of you to take care of her." My hands shake as I tap to open the message thread. There it is, Lena texting Olivia the same day she asked about storing boxes in my garage. "Kaia doesn't know yet, but I'll be moving in next month. Poor thing works too hard and lives alone in that big house. She needs someone to look after her." I check the date stamp again. The exact same day. The front door opens. I don't minimize the screen. "Kaia, what are you doing with my tablet?" Mom sets grocery bags on the counter, her smile faltering when she sees my expression. "Planning a surprise for me?" I turn the screen toward her. Or should I say, planning my life without consulting me? Mom's lips press into a thin line. "Let me call your father and Lena." 20 minutes later, I stand in their living room, tablet in hand, while they sit arranged in their usual spots. Dad in his leather recliner, Mom in her wingback chair, Lena curled in the corner of the sofa. The family tribunal, elevated and looking down at me. "You were spying on my private messages," Lena says, arms crossed. "You were planning to move into my house behind my back," I counter, keeping my voice level despite the heat rising in my chest. "For months." Mom waves her hand dismissively. "We were going to tell you, but knew you'd overreact. Just like you're doing now." "Overreact? You designed my sister's bedroom in my house without asking me." Dad leans forward, elbows on knees. "That big house is wasted on one person, Kaia. It's simply practical." Practical would be asking me first. Lena's eyes well with tears right on cue. "I just need a little help until I get back on my feet like always." "Why is that so terrible?" "Because you never get back on your feet," I say. "And because none of you bothered to ask what I want or need." "We already helped her pack most of her apartment," Mom says. "The moving truck is scheduled for Saturday." The audacity stuns me into momentary silence. "You booked a moving truck to my house without telling me?" Dad sighs heavily. "Kaia, why are you being so difficult about this? Family helps family." "Since when has anyone helped me?" The words escape before I can stop them. "I've been handling everything myself since college." Mom's eyebrows rise. "That was your choice. We offered to help with tuition if you lived at home, while paying for Lena's apartment and tuition entirely. Your sister needed more support," Dad says. I take a deep breath. I need support now. The house has serious problems. The foundation repair cost $14,000. The roof needs replacing. At this rate, I could face foreclosure within months. Their expressions shift slightly the first crack in their certainty. "We have a simple solution," Mom says brightly. "We'll help with your mortgage if Lena can live there rent-free." My throat tightens. "So I'd be financially dependent on you, just like Lena." "Real family doesn't abandon each other when times get tough," Dad says, his voice dropping to that courtroom tone again. "Remember how we helped Lena through college?" Mom adds, "While you chose those student loans?" And there it is, the same old pattern. Help for Lena comes without strings. Help for me comes with control. "I've made my decision," I say. "The house is sold." Later that afternoon, Nora Jennings, my financial advisor, reviews my paperwork in her sunlit office. "You made the right call, Kaia," she says, tapping my sale documents. "These repair costs would have bankrupted you within a year. Selling now protects your credit and gives you a fresh start." Her words wash over me like cool water, the first validation I've felt in days. As I drive home that night, I wonder if I should explain my financial situation to make my family understand, or if maintaining my privacy is more important. Would sharing my struggles help them see my perspective, or just give them more ammunition to manipulate me? The setting sun casts long shadows across the road, much like the shadow of doubt my family has cast over my decision. But for once, I'm driving toward light of my own making. Back at still my home for the time being, my phone buzzes with the 10th text notification of the morning. Aunt Carol's message appears above the others. "Kaia, we're so disappointed to hear you won't be joining us for Thanksgiving. Family should stick together during difficult times." I stare at the screen, confused. Thanksgiving is 6 weeks away. I haven't declined any invitation. Within minutes, Uncle Robert chimes in. "Your sister needs your support right now. Reconsider your priorities, young lady." The truth hits me like a slap. My parents have been busy, calling relatives with their version of events. According to my mother's Facebook post, which I'm suddenly tagged in, I've chosen material possessions over family bonds and abandoned my vulnerable sister in her time of need. Later that afternoon, Dad calls. His voice carries that courtroom authority I've heard him use with difficult clients. "Your mother and I have been discussing our will," he says without preamble. "Given recent events, we're reconsidering certain arrangements." My stomach drops, but my voice remains steady. "Are you threatening to disinherit me because I sold my house?" "I'm suggesting you reconsider your priorities before permanent damage is done to this family." After hanging up, I check Instagram to find Lena has posted a sunset photo captioned, "When those closest betray you at your most vulnerable moment, you discover who truly loves you." Heartbroken, family trauma, abandoned. The comments section overflows with sympathetic responses from relatives and friends who have no idea what's actually happening. When the basement floods 3 days later, water pooling ankle-deep around boxes I haven't yet packed, I laugh until tears stream down my face. The ancient water heater, which the inspector flagged during purchase, has finally given up completely. Rusty water seeps into cardboard, destroying photo albums and Christmas decorations stored below. The plumber shakes his head at the estimate: $3,800 for emergency replacement, plus water damage repair. "Should have replaced this years ago," he says, oblivious to how his words twist the knife. That night, instead of sleeping, I sit cross-legged on my bed with a legal pad, calculating figures until my vision blurs. The mortgage, insurance, property taxes, and now this unexpected expense. The numbers don't lie. Even if I wanted to keep the house, I couldn't afford it much longer. I've stopped answering family calls, but I start something new, a journal documenting the imbalance between my parents' support of Lena versus me over the years. College tuition covered for her, student loans for me, down payment for her first condo, nothing for my house. The list grows longer each night. Meanwhile, in weeks to come, the closing date approaches, and I'm packing alone, room by room. A week later, while boxing books from my office shelves, a small pink diary falls into my lap. My childhood journal with a plastic lock that never worked properly. I flip it open to find my one-year-old handwriting. "Someday, I'll have my own house where no one can tell me what to do." A laugh bubbles up through my tears. That determined little girl knew her worth long before I remembered mine. The crunch of tires on my driveway interrupts my packing rhythm. Through the living room window, I watch Lena's car park behind mine. She pops the trunk, revealing more boxes than could possibly fit in my already crowded garage. I meet her at the front door before she can knock. "I brought the rest of my things," she announces, striding past me as if she's already moved in. "Lena, I told you, I sold the house." She waves dismissively. "Mom says you're just being dramatic. You'll cancel the sale once you calm down." I follow her back to her car where she's pulling out a box labeled, "Lena's room." "You can't do this to me," she says, her voice rising with practiced distress. "Where am I supposed to go?" The question hangs between us like an old, familiar script I'm suddenly tired of reading. "The same place I would go if I hadn't saved for 9 years," I reply, taking the box from her hands and placing it back in her trunk. "Back to Mom and Dad's." She blinks rapidly, unprepared for this deviation from our usual dynamic. I take another box, then another, maintaining eye contact as I return each to her car. "I'm not responsible for solving your housing crisis," I say, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "You are." Lena's mouth opens, closes, opens again. For perhaps the first time in our adult lives, she has no practiced response. She expected tears, capitulation, or guilt, not this calm certainty. "You've completely changed." She finally manages, her accusation landing flat. "Yes, I agree. I have." The next morning, my coworker Denise calls. "I heard you're moving this weekend. Need some help?" By Saturday, 6 people from my office arrive with coffee, donuts, and packing tape. They don't ask why my family isn't helping. Instead, they ask practical questions. Which boxes go to storage? What should be loaded last? Would I like them to pick up lunch? The contrast between their straightforward support and my family's emotional manipulation becomes startlingly clear. When Mark from accounting asks, "What do you need help with next?" rather than telling me what I should do, I almost cry with gratitude. Their support strengthens something in me. When Mom calls that evening with another guilt trip, I recognize the familiar pattern and end the call without the usual hours of aftermath anxiety. The night before my scheduled final discussion with my parents, I prepare meticulously. I organize my financial documents, home inspection reports, and repair estimates in a leather portfolio. I rehearse key points about boundaries and independence. My secret advantage, the 30-day rent-back agreement I negotiated with Ethan and Claire Dawson, gives me breathing room to find a new place. My parents don't know this yet. When I pull into my parents' driveway the next morning, my confidence falters momentarily. Behind my father's sedan sits Lena's car, trunk open, back seat piled high with suitcases and clothing on hangers. A small roller suitcase stands ready on the sidewalk. They expect me to cave. They believe I'll drive away with Lena following behind, her belongings destined for the house I no longer own. I grip the leather portfolio tighter and walk toward the front door. My hands remain steady as I spread the documents across my parents' dining room table, the same polished mahogany where they ambushed me a month ago. The folders fan out in a precise semicircle: home inspection reports, repair invoices, bank statements, and budget projections. Each one color-coded, tabbed, and annotated. Before anyone says anything else, I need you to see these. My voice comes out stronger than I expected. Dad's eyes narrow behind his reading glasses as he pulls the red folder toward him. What exactly am I looking at, Kaia? Spreadsheets documenting every major repair on my house for the past 2 years. I tap my finger on the bottom line. $24,200 in emergency repairs alone. Mom shifts uncomfortably in her chair. Houses need maintenance, dear. That's part of ownership. This isn't routine maintenance. I flip open the blue folder, revealing photographs that make Mom wince. Water damage from the burst pipes last winter. The collapsed section of roof after the March storms. The heating system that failed during the coldest week of February. The muscles in Dad's jaw tighten as he studies each image. He's been a homeowner for 40 years. He recognizes catastrophic damage when he sees it. And this, I continue, sliding the green folder toward him, is a projected budget if I had kept the house. By next summer, I'd be filing for bankruptcy. Dad's expression shifts subtly. The dismissal in his eyes gives way to something I haven't seen directed at me in years: concern. You should have told us it was this bad, he says quietly. Would you have listened? Lena, who's been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly jabs her finger at the spreadsheet. This just proves you obviously can't manage money properly. If you'd maintained the house correctly. Since when are you an expert on home maintenance? Dad cuts her off, his tone sharper than I've ever heard him use with Lena. Your longest homeownership experience was that condo you flipped after 3 months. Lena's mouth falls open. For once, she has no ready comeback. Mom steps in, placing her hand over mine. I understand you've had problems, but family homes should stay in the family. Your father and I have lived in this house for almost 40 years. And did you help me buy my family home? I ask, my voice calm despite the pounding in my chest. You wrote Lena a check for her dog grooming business, and her photography studio, and her life coaching certification. But when I bought my house, all I got was a housewarming plant. A heavy silence falls over the table. Mom and Dad exchange a look that speaks volumes. For the first time, they seem to be questioning the pattern they've established over decades. As I watch understanding slowly dawn in my father's eyes, I wonder, should I push for a full acknowledgement of years of favoritism, or is it enough to establish boundaries for the future? Would reopening old wounds help heal them or just create new ones? The doorbell chimes, puncturing the tension. I check my watch right on time. That's Nora, I say, heading to the door. My financial advisor. Nora Jennings strides into the dining room with professional confidence, her leather portfolio tucked under one arm. After brief introductions, she takes the seat I've saved for her. I've reviewed Kaia's financial situation extensively. She begins opening her portfolio. Selling this property isn't just advisable, it's necessary given the structural issues and maintenance costs. X. She presents a series of charts showing housing market trends and alternative options. This townhouse community we've identified offers Kaia the security of home ownership without the overwhelming maintenance of her current property. The difference in monthly expenses will allow her to rebuild her emergency fund within 18 months. This decision, Nora continues, meeting my parents' eyes directly, reflects financial responsibility, not abandonment. Kaia is making the mature choice to adapt to changed circumstances rather than maintaining an unsustainable situation. Dad leans forward, studying the townhouse listing with newfound interest. The HOA covers exterior maintenance? Yes, Nora confirms. And the building is only 8 years old, with all major systems recently inspected. Sounds like you've thought this through, Dad murmurs, glancing at me with something that might be respect. Lena pushes her chair back suddenly, the legs screeching against the hardwood floor. This is ridiculous. I'm not sitting here while you all act like Kaia's some financial genius for giving up. The front door slams behind her. No one moves to follow. Dad removes his glasses, pinching the bridge of his nose. May I see that budget plan again? I'd like to go through it in more detail. Mom fiddles with her napkin, folding and refolding it into smaller squares. Perhaps we should consider some family counseling. We clearly have some communication issues to work through. We've been enabling Lena for decades, Dad says quietly, the admission hanging in the air between us. Expecting you to do the same wasn't fair. I reach for my water glass, hiding my trembling lips behind it. Not because I'm upset, but because after years of inequality, this small acknowledgement feels like finally breaking the surface after being underwater too long. The first breath always comes as a surprise. 2 days later, the doorbell rings precisely at 7, right on cue. I open my front door to find Lena standing there, not with her usual confident smirk, but with a manila folder clutched to her chest. Behind her, our parents hover on the porch steps like nervous understudies. I have a solution, Lena announces, her voice unnaturally bright. She follows me into the living room without waiting for an invitation. I notice her blouse freshly ironed, hair styled more conservatively than usual. This isn't casual, Lena. This is interview, Lena. They've planned this ambush just like the dinner a month ago. She opens the folder on my coffee table, revealing a handwritten budget. I can pay $300 monthly toward your mortgage. Her finger taps the page where the number is circled in red. All you need to do is call off the sale. Dad leans forward. It's a fair compromise, Kaia. Everyone wins. Mom reaches for my hand. Family supports each other through thick and thin. That's what we've always taught you girls. Blood matters more than money, Lena adds, her voice dropping to that wounded tone she's perfected since childhood. Unless you think your financial situation is more important than your only sister. I notice Dad's expectant nod, Mom's hopeful smile. They rehearsed this. Probably spent hours coaching Lena on this performance the first time she's ever offered to pay for anything. You're being selfish, Lena continues when I don't immediately respond. Real family wouldn't abandon each other when times get tough. I walk to my desk without a word and return with my own folder. Inside are the signed closing documents, dated yesterday. The sale is final, I say, watching their faces fall in perfect unison. But I negotiated a 30-day rent-back agreement with the new owners. I lay out my own documents one by one, the approved lease application for a townhouse near my office, a financial projection showing complete recovery within 18 months, a comparison chart tracking my savings history against the money our parents have given Lena over the years. I didn't make this decision overnight. I continue, my voice steady. While you were planning how to move Lena into my house, I was planning how to save myself from bankruptcy. Mom stares at my financial projection. Bankruptcy. But your job. Pays well, but not enough to cover a mortgage designed for 2 incomes plus $15,000 in emergency repairs. I point to the water damage photos. The dream house nearly broke me. Lena scoffs. So you're just giving up? I close my folder with a crisp snap. I'm not abandoning family. I'm teaching us all about boundaries. A week later, we sit around our parents' dining room table, the same table where they ambushed me with Lena's moving plans a month earlier. The china cabinet gleams against the wall, but there's no champagne tonight, no fancy place settings. Instead, a single sheet of paper sits at each place setting. I watch their faces as they read what I've titled, House Rules for Lena. Rent payment of $400 monthly? Lena reads aloud, her voice rising with each word. Job search verification? Weeknight curfew? Chore rotation? She looks at our parents in disbelief. This is ridiculous. Dad adjusts his reading glasses, studying the paper more carefully. Actually, these are reasonable expectations for an adult living at home. You can't be serious, Lena says. Mom, Tell them this is crazy. Mom is silent, staring at her paper. When she finally looks up, there are tears in her eyes. We've been calling Kaia selfish while expecting her to sacrifice everything. She reaches across to touch my hand. How did we not see that? Because we've been protecting Lena from consequences her entire life, Dad says quietly. His shoulders slump as 30 years of parenting mistakes visibly settle on them. We kept waiting for her to grow up without giving her any reason to. Lena pushes back from the table. So you're all ganging up on me now? No, honey. Mom's voice is gentle but firm. We're finally treating you like the capable adult we know you can be. Dad folds the paper and tucks it into his shirt pocket. Lena, you'll be moving into our guest room, not Kaia's house. And these rules, he pats his pocket, will be in effect starting tomorrow. This is insane, Lena whispers, looking from face to face for an ally and finding none. You can't just change everything overnight. We're not changing everything, I say, reaching into my purse. We're just expecting you to start participating in your own life. I slide a business card across the table to her. My company has an entry-level marketing position opening next month. The hiring manager owes me a favor and will interview you, but the rest is up to you. Lena stares at the card like it might bite her. Marketing? I don't know anything about marketing. You've been manipulating this family masterfully for 30 years, I reply with a small smile. Trust me, you've got the skills. Mom laughs, a startled, genuine sound I haven't heard in years. Dad's mouth twitches upward. Even Lena looks momentarily surprised before her scowl returns. I glance around the table at my family, imperfect, frustrating, but finally seeing each other clearly. I realize I've been holding my breath for 9 years, waiting for them to recognize my independence. Now I can finally exhale. The card remains on the table between us, a small bridge across a very wide gap. 8 months later, sunlight streams through the townhouse windows, casting warm patches across my living room floor. The space is half the size of my old Craftsman, but for the first time in years, I breathe without the weight of financial anxiety pressing against my chest. I run my fingers along the bookshelf that once stood in my childhood bedroom, one of the few pieces I kept. My grandmother's quilt drapes across the back of a second-hand couch that fits perfectly in this corner. Everything here matters. Nothing is for show. Last night, I deposited money into my savings account, the 4th consecutive month I've been able to do so. The spreadsheet on my coffee table shows black numbers instead of red. No more robbing my emergency fund to pay for crumbling foundations or ancient plumbing. On Sunday mornings now, I linger over coffee on my small balcony, watching cardinals flit between branches. My phone doesn't buzz with family demands or subtle guilt trips. The silence feels like freedom. 8 months have passed since I sold my dream house and moved here. Tonight, my parents and Lena will arrive for dinner, the first time I've hosted them since everything changed. I set out water glasses on the kitchen island, remembering how my hands trembled that Sunday at my parents' dining table when Lena announced her moving plans. Tonight, my hands are steady as I arrange napkins beside each plate. The doorbell chimes. My parents stand on the welcome mat, Dad holding a potted peace lily rather than uninvited expectations. This is lovely, Mom says, stepping inside without commenting on the size. She hands me a bottle of wine, not champagne, meant to celebrate someone else's plans for my life. Dad places the plant on the counter. The perfect spot for it, he says, and the approval in his voice isn't conditional. We sit in the living room where conversation flows without undercurrents. No one mentions how I should be living. No one suggests what I ought to do with my space. When Mom asks about my work, she actually listens to my answer. The doorbell rings again. Nora arrives with my coworkers Beth and Marcus, who carried boxes when my family wouldn't. They bring laughter and dessert, settling into my space like they belong here. Nora raises her glass once everyone has wine. To boundaries that protect us and the courage to enforce them, she says. The words hang in the air, powerful but no longer painful. My parents exchange a look but join the toast. The final ring comes just as we're moving to the dining table. Lena stands in the doorway, cheeks flushed from the evening chill. In her hands is a small ceramic planter, bright with succulents. I got it with my paycheck, she says, her voice missing its familiar wheedling tone. 3 months at Westlake Properties, in the entry-level marketing position, has changed her in subtle ways, back straighter, eyes clearer. Over dinner, she pulls out her phone to show me her budget app. I'm saving for my own place, she says. Nothing fancy, just a studio near work. The pride in her voice mirrors what I felt signing my first mortgage papers, but without the crushing weight that followed. Mom and Dad exchange glances, then Dad gives me a small nod across the table. 8 months ago, that nod would have been directed at Lena. The shift feels monumental. Later, as everyone helps clear dishes, another new development, I notice the family photo on my mantle. It's recent, taken last month at my birthday. We're not perfect, but we're trying. The frame is simple, like this home, right-sized. As I look at my family gathered in my new, smaller home, I wonder if sometimes losing what you thought you wanted could lead to gaining what you truly needed. Had I known the true price of my dream house would be my self-respect, would I have made different choices sooner? What price have you paid for keeping the peace, and was it worth it in the end?